Okay, so first hour is a mess with the sub. Second hour, which is honors government, which is what you guys are, there were a lot of gaps. Where are you at? So like on the 25 topics of discussion, did you guys do them all?
No.
Why not? All right, so what are you up to?
Well, we got to 19, but like some of them we were still confused on.
Yeah.
The videos were hard to hear and stuff.
All right, let's go. All right, so we're going to finish this today. So listen, all you people that are on the march, video I post tomorrow night, tomorrow during the day, while you guys are on the bus, okay, will explain to you what your yeses and nos mean. So tomorrow I'll explain it after we finish it today, okay? There were a lot of gaps for the other students in the second hour, so that's, yeah, I think you're in a little bit better shape. On Thursday, you guys that are marching, I will begin lectures for the notes for section 1 on Thursday and Friday. So those are something definitely you're going to want to watch. Okay. And I think you want to watch the meaning of the political spectrum just for your own knowledge. Okay. Yeah, we'll start going from there. Okay. As far as homework goes over the march, I'm going to stay away from that. Okay. Other than just the notes. Okay. Those notes will always be available to, those videos will always be available to you to go back and look at if you want to. When I post the videos, I post the date of the video, so you can go back and look what day I missed. I can find that day. Okay. So it'll be labeled honors government and the date. Okay. Good. All right. So number 19. You think you did bailouts? The auto bailouts?
Yeah, we did bailouts.
Okay. All right. 19. Now, guys, this ship has sailed. You understand? The Supreme Court has said that marriage between same-sex couples is protected under the Constitution. So if it's protected under the Constitution, the only way to revert that is to change the Constitution. You see what I'm saying? Now, some background here. Guys, attitudes on this obviously have changed immensely in a very short period of time. For instance, in 2008, when Barack Obama was running for president, he was challenged by Hillary Clinton. Both of those candidates, the Democratic Party, were opposed to gay marriage in 2008. Okay, that's how quickly attitudes have changed on this, okay? Now you find it really mainstream in the Republican Party as well, that people are like, look, if two people of the same sex want to get married, it's not my business, it doesn't affect me, I don't care. And so you've really seen that. And if you look at President Trump in 2016, the most gay-friendly Republican president we've ever had. Every president we had from here on out is the most gay-friendly president we've ever had. Okay, so when it comes to marriage, okay, so this is a personal preference for you on this, whether you think that allowing same-sex marriage, some would say maybe desecrates the institution of marriage in a sense that it's a covenant with God, and that maybe you feel like this is an affront to God. So on moral grounds, you may think this way, okay? Listen, people for years, it started with Massachusetts, okay? And just to give you some background here. When Massachusetts was the first state to allow gay marriage, the other states were concerned because obviously we have freedom of movement in this society, except Hawaii now, which you're going to need a booster to go to Hawaii. Okay, so you have freedom of movement. So if a gay couple gets gets married in Massachusetts and they move to Kansas where they don't have gay marriage, what does Kansas do about that? Well, you guys know some of the benefits of being married are?
Taxes.
What? Taxes, yes.
FAFSA.
What's that? FAFSA? Okay. What? Hospital visitation by family members? Spouse, like, yeah, Fifth Amendment issues with testifying against the spouse. And then health insurance is a big one, right? So, like, I get my health insurance through my wife's work. She could get it through my work, okay? So you can see reasons why same-sex couples would argue for the benefits of marriage, okay? And so for a while, people talked about what were called civil unions that would have the same legal protections, but not the label of marriage, okay? But like I said, the ship has sailed on that. But what they did in the 90s, after Massachusetts became, and then Hawaii, and then some other states, Bill Clinton was president of the United States. You had a Republican Congress at the time, and they passed this. This is called the Defense of Marriage Act. So what it said was Kansas, if you moved here as a gay couple, married couple to Kansas, Kansas didn't have to recognize that gay marriage. Okay? Now, if you know the Constitution at all, you know immediately this Defense of Marriage Act saying that one state doesn't have to recognize another state's gay marriage is unconstitutional. Okay, there's in Article 4 of the Constitution, there's something called the Full Faith and Credit Clause. Okay? I assume all of you have one of these. A Kansas driver's license. You can use this in any of the other 49 states legally. Yes? Because of the Constitution, where it says full faith and credit, one state's laws must be recognized by another. Official documents of one state must be recognized. I was married in Louisiana. Baton Rouge, Louisiana, is one of the most corrupt state capitals of the 50 states. But Kansas has to recognize my marriage from Baton Rouge. Okay? It's in the Constitution. So this is unconstitutional, this law. It stood for like 13 years without being overturned as unconstitutional. The Supreme Court only takes cases it feels like the United States is ready for them to take. So you got to have 4 of the 9 justices to take a case. They have to agree to it. They waited like 13 years to declare what everybody knew was unconstitutional. So they did that, and about 3 years after that, the Supreme Court found the right to same-sex marriage in the Constitution. Where did they find it? What amendment? Good, people. Good, you're paying attention. Okay, so really, there's some history on it and some background on it, and you guys may have personal preferences on this. You decide. Good? Okay. All right. Number 20. Opposed to Title IX. We talked about affirmative action early on, and that was the 1964 Civil Rights Act. Okay. Now, I know we have, this deals with generally athletics between men and women. Okay. And Avril is a track star. Okay. Track star going to go to college and do track. Yes? Okay. So where you do track, there's going to be a certain number of scholarships available for women and for men. That number needs to be equal. Okay. If we build or put lights on the baseball field at Bishop Carroll, we have to put lights on the softball field at Bishop Carroll. This goes all the way down into middle school when it comes to public, not just colleges, but public schools as well, and private schools. Okay, so Title IX ensures an equality in athletics for men and women. Okay, now this has been very good for women in this country, women athletes. Okay, because it opens up opportunities that were not there present before that. Okay, and we've seen great benefit. The #1 most dominant team in the world when it comes to the Olympics every 2 years, the Summer and then Winter Olympics, is the U.S. women's team is the most dominant athletics group of athletes in the entire world. American women athletes score more medals than any other group of any country. And it's really not even that very close. Okay? So we've seen the benefit for women, but it does come at the detriment to men. And the biggest problem with this, guys, is something that many of us really enjoy every fall, and it's called college football. College football is the biggest revenue-producing sport on college campuses across this country. Now, KU basketball might pull in more money than KU football, but probably not. Okay? You guys know how bad the KU football is.
Hey,
right?
they're having a good offseason right now.
Let's go.
Count them out.
Hey, I always root for the Jayhawks in football because they're always the underdog. I do not root for the basketball team. Okay. It's not a KU or a K-State thing. Okay, so the Shockers, and they suck. Okay. Now, guys, how many full scholarships does a Division I football team have? All right. We got to do one of two things. We got to cut some other male sports or add some female sports because we got to get to 80 for the women right here. So, ladies, how about women's rowing at KU, which you can get scholarships for?
I heard it's beautiful.
Do they have women's soccer at K-State? Do they have men's soccer at K-State? No. The biggest victims of Title IX are men's wrestling, baseball, and men's soccer. Okay? Bergen, when you're out looking for a place to play college soccer, there's a lot of schools that don't have it. Well, most of them don't have it. Wrestling. Very few schools have wrestling. Northern Iowa, which is in the Missouri Valley, which what the Shockers used to be in, dropped baseball about 10 years ago. Because they have to equal out the number of scholarships for male and female athletes. Okay? Emporia State, Division II school, right up the road, has 5.5 scholarships for baseball for 36 guys. 5.5. That's it. Division I baseball has 11 for 36 guys. Now, ladies, do you play golf? There are thousands of unused female college golf scholarships in this country every year because there are not that many women that play golf. So, ladies, if you are decent with a club, you can get some scholarship money for that. Couple that with academics, you might get a lot of your school paid for. Now, I have a daughter that's an athlete. I have a son that's an athlete. Okay? Her opportunities are better than his. Now, in a perfect world, we could say, okay, let's take college football out of the equation and go equal from there. Do that. It's not a perfect world. Okay? Now, understand this. Most college sports cost money for the universities, do not bring in money. How many people show up and pay to go watch a college golf tournament or a track and field meet? Not very many people. How about a women's basketball game? Yeah. Now, Wichita State volleyball, Nebraska volleyball, they pack it out. It's a revenue positive sport. Baseball at some schools like LSU, they pack it out. Wichita State used to make a lot of money off of baseball, and they were good. I mean, they won the College World Series in 1989, which is crazy for a northern school to win that. Okay, that was a huge feat. And they built a $6 million stadium because of it that nobody goes to anymore. Good recruiting tool. Hopefully they get back to national preeminence. I hope that's the case. Love to see the Shockers do well. Okay, but we'll see. So guys, you got to choose. You got to say yes or no here. Is this good for women? Sure. It's great for women. It's not so great for some of the guys, unless you're a football player. And I can count on like two hands how many Division I football players we've graduated from Bishop Carroll since I've been here. We've had a few. Hank Conis, by the way, entered the portal. He's going to play again, but he entered the transfer portal. He had an extra year medical. Yeah. Huh? Yeah, why not? Get your master's.
Because that's what he's doing. He's going to be MD.
Yeah, good for Hank. I hope he winds up like at Alabama or something. Okay. All right, you decide. Next one. Opposed to allowing biological male transgender athletes to compete against women. Okay, so have you guys followed this swimmer? There's a swimmer at Penn, maybe? Penn, University of Pennsylvania, I think, who it's a male body, identifies as a female, smashing records, winning everything. This is coming to a state near you. If states do not stop this, we're going to have to see what happens in the Olympics. Whether they allow transgender males to compete as females. You guys understand the biology, the difference between the male body and the female body. Obviously, when we're talking about transgenders, we're talking about people that feel like they are in the wrong body and identify as the other. This happens both ways. But when it comes to athletics, biggest impact is obviously the biological males competing as females. You see more of a dramatic impact. Okay, so that one's pretty simple for you guys. See, how you feel about this. You take somebody like Hope Jackson, okay, who's won state championships. And take Carson, he converts and jumps over to the female side. Carson, can you beat Hope? You got better times than her? Yeah, some female athletes are going to, I watch MMA. So I watch the lightweight female MMAs. I'm like, dude, those girls are going to kick my ass. My son's like, well, Dad, you weigh 200 pounds. You'd probably be all right. I'm like, no, they're going to kick my ass. However you think about this, I don't think it necessarily diminishes female athletes. Some people think this is an unfair playing field and are opposed to it. And some people say, well, if this person truly feels like they are a female, they should be allowed to compete there. Yeah.
Is there stipulations for how long they have to be taking hormones?
I think definitely with the Olympics, they've started putting some rules in on that. As far as the NCAA goes, I'm not sure. Okay, next one. 22, in favor of tort reform and medical malpractice lawsuits. So guys, you have criminal law and then you have civil law. Okay, so you go in for a routine operation, and say you got to get your appendix out. Okay, and they're gonna knock you out for that. They're gonna administer, what do they call it? What you said, and they give you the wrong drug, and you fall into a coma, and you're in a coma for more than a year. All right, you come out of the coma, you have diminished capacity, you missed all that work, all the school, all the things, and you're going to sue for medical malpractice. Okay, how much are you going to sue for? $2 billion. Okay. Now, the doctor. Okay, now listen. This has an impact on everybody because listen, when you get in a car accident, the state of Kansas, you're required to have insurance to drive on the roads. Reason why they require that, because if you cause an accident, you got to have insurance. If you don't have insurance, then they sue you instead of your insurance company. You understand? And if you don't have insurance, they could force you to sell your house and use that money to pay for the damages you committed. Doctors, nurses, hospitals all have insurance to protect them from lawsuits. There's a lot of them. Mistakes are made because they're human beings, and they do make mistakes. Now, if you get a $2 billion lawsuit over administering the wrong drug here, what's going to happen to the insurance premiums for the doctors and the hospitals that they have to pay to get insurance? They're going to go up, and how are they going to recoup that money to be able to pay for that insurance? They're going to charge more for health care. So these lawsuits impact the whole entire society when it comes to large settlements. Now, most of these cases are settled out of court. If you take this story to a jury, juries tend to be very sympathetic over these sorts of cases, and they will reward lots of money. So a lot of times the lawyers from the insurance company and the individual's lawyers will get together and they'll say, okay, how much to make this go away? How much can we pay you to make this lawsuit go away? Most of these things are settled out of court. Tort reform would allow caps on the amount of damages that people are allowed to sue for. So you have pain and suffering, right? So you go in for a surgery on your stomach because you're having issues. They go in, look, clean up your stomach. They leave a sponge in there, sew you back up. It gets infected. You got to have a second surgery. You go months and months of missing work, pain and suffering. It's horrible. The whole thing's horrible. It's a nightmare. Okay, you get that in front of a jury, they're going to feel sympathetic. Okay. Now, the worst situation is a wrongful death case. Like something they did at the hospital led to your death. Well, the survivors are going to ask for money. Can you put a price on a human life? And if you can, what is that price? Is it for somebody that's over the age of 80 that has already made it through life expectancy, a smaller number than somebody that's under the age of 20 that had their whole life in front of them, a larger number? The fact is, if you can put caps on these things, you can give insurance companies an idea, the number of mistakes that are made annually in our hospitals. They can figure out a way to bring down the cost of insurance, bringing down the cost of healthcare. Now, many states do have these tort reforms in place today. When my in-laws used to live in West Virginia, they were having a big problem with it. Doctors, the insurance that doctors were buying was so expensive that doctors were leaving the state because they couldn't afford to practice medicine in West Virginia. So it really became a problem. They had a shortage of doctors. So they had to change the law. They had to put caps to bring insurance premiums under control. Okay. This is one of the factors in cost of healthcare nationally. So if you feel like you could put caps on that are going to have to be generalized, as soon as you put caps on, you take away each individual story. You understand? Because you can't ask for more than that. So do you take every case as it's on its own merit and look at that situation and award people based on what they deserve for that instance? Or are we able to put caps in? And they can be pretty high, but they can't be too high. But you're not getting $2 billion for that. You'd be lucky if you get $1 million for that, for the coma case. You'd be real lucky to get $1 million. So, do you think this is a good idea? Say yes. If you're like, hey, we need to look at every case individually. The screw up could have been really bad and they need to be punished so it doesn't happen again. We have a lot of lawyers in this country. You see the billboards. Something done wrong to you? Call 1-800 da 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 da. You're gonna sue. Okay. You decide. All right. Drill for oil in the Gulf of Mexico and in ANWR. Does anybody know what ANWR is? It's the Alaska National Wildlife Refuge. Okay. Now, do we drill for oil in Alaska now? Right now? Are we drilling for oil? Yes. Okay. In fact, we have a pipeline that was built in the 50s and 60s all the way down from Alaska into the continental U.S. Okay. Much of that is built above ground because of the frozen tundra. Okay. Now, and it allows wildlife to pass underneath it. So it's like 6 feet above the earth, okay, the surface. And so caribou can pass underneath it and so forth. In fact, the caribou kind of like the pipeline because it's warm. So they like to hang out by the pipeline. Now, today, in the Alaska National Wildlife Refuge, you're not allowed to drill for oil. But we know there's a lot of oil under it. Now, if I drill right here, where I'm standing, can I drill over there at the same time from here? We have horizontal drilling now. So that your footprint is here. If there's a leak, it's here, not over there. But you're drilling over there. Okay? So the technology is improved here with drilling in that sense. So you could drill in the Alaska National Wildlife Refuge and have a small footprint. Okay? Now, any of you guys ever been to the beach in Florida? Ooh, nice. Okay? Now, you're not allowed to drill within 3 miles of the coast of Florida. Okay? What's the #1 industry in Florida? Tourism. You want to be laying on the beach and see a big oil platform right off the coast?
That's what I'm there for, right?
You don't want to see that. Now, if it's 2 miles out, it looks about this big to the naked eye. That's how big it looks. Now, you guys all heard of Deepwater Horizon, the BP spill about 10 years ago, right? Now, that was in the middle of the Gulf of Mexico, way out. Deepwater Horizon. When the base of the drilling broke, they had a hard time shutting it off because it was in very deep water. So the oil just kept billowing out for about a month. Now, some of that oil did find its way to the Gulf Coast, not to mention a huge oil slick in the middle of the Gulf. Okay? If you are in shallower water closer to the shore and there's a leak, is it easier to shut off? Yes. Okay? But it is also closer to those beautiful white sand beaches. And if there is a leak, that oil can get to the beach more quickly. Okay? That's one of the greatest disasters we had was that one. And then in Alaska, you had the case of the Exxon Valdez, which was a massive cargo ship filled with oil. The captain of the ship was drinking. He was drunk. And he hit the ground. And it started spilling oil out of this tanker. And it was horrible, guys. I mean, just the images of sea life, birds, and so forth, just covered in black oil. It's hard to watch, especially if you're a nature lover. So here's the deal. Oil. We started fracking about 15, 20 years ago. You guys know what fracking is? Raise your hand if you don't know what fracking is. It's okay. All right. So, guys, in North Dakota, in Oklahoma, Pennsylvania, basically the whole state of Colorado, underground is this rock called oil shale. And if you drill into that rock and you send in high-powered water, like pressurized water with chemicals that separate the rock from the oil, it breaks up the rock, separate the oil from the water, and you suck the oil out of the ground. Now, that's more expensive to do than just drilling into an oil pit underground, okay? But we have enough oil shale rock under our feet in this country to last us hundreds of years of fossil fuels, okay? So fracking takes place in Oklahoma. Have any of you guys in the last 2 or 3 years ever felt an earthquake in Wichita, Kansas? Okay. Sonora, you never felt one? You poor thing. I remember the first time I felt laying in bed, just like, it's an earthquake in Kansas. They basically attribute those earthquakes to fracking because you're breaking up the bedrock, okay, and it's going to shift, and that creates an earthquake, okay? So you might think about earthquake insurance at some point, okay? North Dakota, they do a lot of fracking. Now, in order for fracking to be profitable, oil prices have to be high enough. If oil prices are really low, it's more expensive to frack. So it's hard to make a living. They do this in Texas a lot too, okay? Now, oil is traded as a worldwide commodity. So if there is a disruption to the supply because of a war in the Middle East or a hurricane in the Gulf of Mexico, where we have a lot of oil refineries that take crude oil and turn it into all different types of gasolines, fuels, kerosene, all jet fuel, all that stuff. Those refineries we find in places like Louisiana, outside of Houston, and so forth. Okay, if there's a hurricane coming, that affects the price of gasoline worldwide, not just in the United States, but worldwide. We export oil and we import oil. When Trump left office, the United States was producing enough oil domestically to fuel our entire economy. That didn't mean we stopped trading it, exporting and importing it, because it's all about logistics. Okay? So sometimes it's easier to import it than to ship it from the West Coast or from Houston. Okay? Now, we have among the lowest gas prices in America in Wichita because there's a refinery in Tulsa, big oil refinery. So it only takes 3 hours up the road to bring us our gas. In California, they don't have refineries. So you got to transport that fuel all the way to California. Or you get it from overseas and transport it in there, okay? It's more expensive. You follow me? Now, so this is totally based on supply and demand. So when worldwide demand increases, what happens to the price? It increases, okay? When Trump left office, if you look at the price of gas today versus what it was when he left office, it's up over 40%. Why? What did Joe Biden do? Is it his fault? Well, let's look at what's happened. Now, on our oil, on our federal lands across this country, our government leases land to ranchers, to oil companies, to do oil exploration and fracking. Biden administration shut down any new leases for fracking on federal land. The existing leases are honored. They shut down the building of the Keystone Pipeline, which was supposed to send oil sands from Canada down to refineries on the Gulf Coast of the United States, which would be a source of cheap oil. That's been scratched. Drilling in Alaska in Anwar is not going to happen under Biden either. So what you look at is a reduction of supply worldwide. You see prices go up. Yes?
Okay, so was the pipeline a federal project or a private project?
It was a private project that needed federal government approval.
Okay.
It was actually the U.S. State Department that was in charge of allowing it or not.
So was it like already almost completed?
They were working on it. So you had Obama, right? His State Department was starting to shoot it down. Okay. Now you have to understand this pipeline would also would be buried above parts of the Ogalla Aquifer. Some of it would go through tribal lands. There was some resistance there. Trump said, we're moving forward with it. And so a lot of the pipeline was being built. The structure was being built. People were being hired for their jobs to do this, to build the construction of it. And then when Biden was elected, they shut it down.
What happened to all the investment that was put into it? Gone.
So those jobs. So, look, even if you are the green and you want to get off the fossil fuels, you have to understand that we are so reliant on them still to this day. You all got here today in a car. I don't care if it was an electric car, because in order to put the electricity into that electric car, you needed fossil fuels. That's where we get our electricity in Wichita, or from nuclear power. Okay, we know about the wind farms in Kansas. Most of that energy goes to the West Coast. So, should we open this up more to drilling? Increase supply, not be reliant on foreign oil if it comes to that. Guys, Europe right now, Russia is building a pipeline that Biden helped approve to help fuel Europe with Russian oil. Okay? The more Europe becomes reliant on Russian oil, this is a geostrategic issue. They can turn off the valve whenever they want and blackmail Europe in the dead of winter if they want. So oil security is a thing. It's a national security issue. There have been times in the 70s, twice, where OPEC, the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, have put embargoes on the United States and not traded oil with us. That's happened. So the more we produce ourselves, the more national security, economic security we have. Okay, but you've got to weigh that with the environmental issues. The more we produce, the less likely we are to move to clean energy. You know what I mean? The cheaper gas is, the more likely we are to use it over greener energies. Okay. Does that make sense? If it's cheap, that's what people are going to use. Fossil fuels are a lot cheaper than other types of energy. More efficient. You can store it. You decide. We did 24. Did you guys hear the Supreme Court ruling on that? Last week? Supreme Court said that OSHA, under the Obama administration, does not have the authority to mandate vaccination or testing for employers that have more than 100 employees. So that's not within the power of the national government. It was a 6-3 decision. Okay. However, Kavanaugh and Roberts joined the liberal justices on the healthcare workers. Did you hear about that? So mandating healthcare professionals, doctors and nurses, be vaccinated or be fired is allowed by the Obama administration, by the government. So healthcare professionals, any guys thinking about going into medicine? Healthcare professionals have less say over what you put in your body than non-healthcare professionals. Because you can't force me to take it. The diocese has more than 100 employees. If that mandate was allowed to stand, they could have forced me to take the vaccine. They don't have to force me, I already did. But you see what I'm saying? Okay? Which is an interesting decision by the court. That's a 5-4 decision. Okay? So if you're a doctor or a nurse, and the hospital you work for, company you work for, they can mandate that you get vaccinated. Okay? That's what they're saying. That is the Supreme Court's precedent. Okay? So we'll kind of see how this continues to play out. Guys, I survived COVID. I think I had the Delta variant. Okay? Not the Omicron. I had fever and was achy. Like my back was killing me for 3 days. My lower back. The fever never went over 101.4. No runny nose. No cough. I had a dry cough maybe for 1 day. A little bit. I was kind of worried. I'm like, man, I hope this doesn't go to the lungs. So I took about 8 pills every morning. You guys heard of hydrochloroquine? I took a substitute for that. And I took a bunch of vitamin D. Like a bunch. And a bunch of vitamin C and zinc. Felt like crap for about 5 days. Day 6, I was a little better. Fever broke. Day 7, 8, 9. I'm like, today I feel almost normal. So, okay. The last one, this is just kind of a general world view. The U.S. government is doing too much to help the American people. You feel like the government is bigger than it should be? Is it spending too much money? Is it more involved in our lives than it should be? Or is it not doing enough to help people? Should the government do more? Okay? It's not spending enough. It's not taxing the rich enough. It needs to tax the rich more and give more to people. In that case, you would say no. Okay? Now, how much time do I have?
Like 7 minutes.
Okay, do you have your sheet? Why'd you put it away?
My book?
Yeah.
Because I had filled out the last one.
All right, did you add them up? Add them up. Add up your yeses and nos.
What's the Green New
Yeah,
Deal?
you know.
We didn't do the Green New Deal?
Or the Medicare for all.
Okay, see, okay, let's do that. All right, Green New Deal, holy cow. How many of you guys know who AOC is? Okay, Andrea Ocasio-Cortez is a second-term member of the House of Representatives from Brooklyn, New York. No, from the Bronx, New York. She is of the same ilk of a Bernie Sanders, socialist. Okay. Thing I appreciate about Bernie Sanders and AOC is they admit what they are. They tell you to your face, hey, I'm a socialist. Okay. I like that because you're being honest. There are a lot of people that are socialists that don't want to tell you they're actually a socialist. So I appreciate that. Now, this is the Green New Deal is AOC's product. She created this and her staff. Okay. Now, it is a radical change to the U.S. economy to go off of fossil fuels in a very short period of time. Included in this is basically making every home and every business, every structure in this building energy efficient so that it uses less fuel, less energy. Okay. Transitioning from fossil fuels to green fuels in a span of about 10 years. And the idea here is to put a deadline on it so we force ourselves to act. Okay? Now, people laugh at this Green New Deal. I mean, you could do a YouTube search of it, and there are people that feel passionately that we are running out of time. Like the climate catastrophe is happening now, and if we don't do something drastic now, our children will not have a future on this planet. Okay. So this is the Green New Deal people, okay, that really feel this way. So it is a massive government program, just like the New Deal, guys. This is like, take the economy. You guys learned all about the New Deal, all those new programs. But everything here is based around green energy. Okay. And so it would be a massive government effort to try and create this energy through green means. What's the word I'm looking for? Wind energy. Renewable energy. This would cost trillions of dollars to do. Obviously, if you're talking about every home in America and so forth. Aircraft would have to convert to renewable energy. I know. So, like, just getting rid of carbon. Okay. It's a massive pie in the sky thinking. Okay. Now, the infrastructure bill that passed, 1.3 trillion that passed, is about real infrastructure, bridges, roads, so forth. The human infrastructure part has a lot of the Green New Deal stuff in it. The $3 trillion one that has not passed. Guys, you remember me talking about okay. That has a lot of the green stuff in it. Okay. So, I mean, guys, you'd have to look this up a little bit to get more details, but it's a radical change for the United States. Okay? Now, Medicare for all. You guys have all heard of Obamacare, okay? Medicare for all would create a single payer, universal healthcare system. This is what France has. This is what Britain has. This is what Canada has. Okay, who is the single payer? The government. So no longer do you buy health insurance. You just pay more in taxes. That money goes into the government coffers, and then the government pays for everybody's health care. Okay? Now, do we have any families that have doctors in their families? Okay. Now, the biggest insurer in this country today is Medicare. Okay? And if you're a doctor and you have a patient come in, you have two patients. One has Medicare coverage, one has private health insurance coverage. Which one pays the doctor more for their services? The private health insurance. See, Medicare is the largest provider of health care in this country. They set their own prices, how much they're going to pay the doctor. Okay? So what's going to happen is, if you are a doctor, there is one payer. So the government will decide how much doctors make. Okay? Now, if everybody has free coverage, we know it's not free, but if everybody has coverage, are more people going to go to the doctor? Which could be good for like preventative care and so forth, yes? Having access. But what happens when everybody can go for free? Do we have enough doctors? You're going to have waiting periods like you have in Canada and Britain and France. Now in France, if you can afford it, you buy private health insurance. You have the government insurance, but you also buy private insurance. And if you want to see a doctor in France, guess who goes to the front of the line? The rich people that can afford private insurance.
Not what we have now, except for that your taxes are higher.
Some doctors do not take Medicare patients. Correct. Yes. Now, Obamacare guys did not do this. Now, in 2009, when they passed this, the number they were throwing around was 46 million that were uninsured. Okay? If you're poor in this country, like poor, you qualify for what? Medicaid. If you're old and poor, you qualify for Medicare. If you're old and have money, you buy into Medicare. Pay extra. Okay? People that are of my age generally get their insurance through their employer, if your employer has health insurance. So there are about 46 million people that did not have access to health care in 2009. Now, a lot of those people are in their 20s that can afford health insurance, but choose not to buy it. When I was in my 20s, I didn't have health insurance. I got to stay on my parents until I was 22, and then I was off. Moved to Louisiana when I was 25, 26. I had really bad allergy problems. Like I couldn't breathe. So I went to the allergy doctor. $600. Then my freaking wisdom teeth. $1,200. Mr. Ebright's life savings were gone. Listen, how many people in their 20s have heart attacks, heart disease, cancer? Those are the biggest ones. Okay, so under Obamacare, you get to stay on your parents through your age of 26. When you turn 27, you have to move out of the basement and buy your own health insurance. And if you don't buy it, you have to pay a tax, which goes into the coffers to help the poor that cannot afford health insurance. They need young, healthy people to buy insurance to help cover other people that can't afford it. I'll wrap that up and tell you what it means tomorrow. Marchers, God bless you. Be safe. Stay healthy. Watch my videos. Bye. Bye.